Hey everyone, I'm
Hey,
C,
and I'm V.
and we are Casual Fangirls.
Girls.
So, who are the Casual Fangirls? We are two friends who love diving into stories, specifically some of our favorite stories and fandoms. And although we're fine spending hours and hours sending memes back and forth to each other, we thought, why not do this with more people?
So the plan was to create a platform that embraces all lovers of stories, especially those who don't consider themselves as like the hardcore fans and tread that line along the casual fan. So we want you guys to join us, and we hope that you'll come in as we talk about our favorite books, movies, TV shows, and stories that pretty much just capture the culture as a whole.
So here we are. So that's us, right? And as we go along, we'll share more and more about ourselves. But today, we're here to talk about the latest episode of What If. So, for those who may be unfamiliar with the show, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU for short, includes a bunch of movies and TV shows about different characters from the Marvel comic books, right? What makes the MCU unique, and really what has catapulted the MCU into a worldwide phenomenon, is within all of the movies and TV shows, the characters who all have their own storylines are technically living within the same world. Heavy air quotes, because that's about to be blown out the water, right? Currently, the MCU has 25 as of today, because Shang-Chi was officially released in theaters today. And we're on our fourth TV show that's a part of the MCU canon with What If? What we're here to talk about today. So, What If is a show where the fates of the characters we know and love are reimagined based on one choice being different from the story we already know. In this week's episode, we're reimagining Doctor Strange's story, and boy, was this strange.
Indeed, indeed. So before we go any further, just know the spoilers are coming. Okay, not just from this episode, but from previous episodes, from the MCU as a whole. So if you didn't see Loki, that's not our fault. If you didn't see any of the movies, if you didn't see the Doctor Strange movie, that's not our fault. Okay, and if you didn't see the Spider-Man trailer, that is not our fault because like 70, 80 million people went and saw it. So just know that we are about to dive deep into the episode and talk about different aspects of it. So if you didn't see it, please go watch it first and then come back and join in our discussion.
So we warned you, like, just don't. Okay,
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't try it.
Don't come back and be mad.
Right. Can't be mad. So we're gonna start with a quick recap, and then we're just gonna dive into like what our thoughts were. So let's see how quickly I can do the recap. No, I'm gonna read it off, and we're gonna see how this works out. So we open up the episode with Doctor Strange going to an award ceremony with Christine, who is the love of his life. They get into a car accident, and she dies. This is the pivotal moment that sets Strange on his journey to pursue the mystic arts and become Sorcerer Supreme. Plagued by his sorrow, he uses the time stone to try and save Christine's life, but fails at every attempt. Eventually, the Ancient One tells Strange that Christine's death is an absolute point in the timeline, we're going to talk about that, and cannot be changed. Unwilling to accept this, he transports himself to the library of Cagliostro to look for answers. He finds out that through the absorption of other beings, he can gain enough power to change an absolute point in the timeline. He spends centuries absorbing mystic creatures, then finds out that another Strange exists in his universe. Turns out the Ancient One split the timeline in order to have a Strange that didn't go down the dark path. Both Stranges find out about each other and clash in a mystic fight. Good Strange is absorbed by Evil Strange, which finally gives him the full power to bring Christine back. It's weird, guys. We're going to get into it. Upon her return, Strange takes a monstrous form, and she quickly begins to fade away. Strange begs the Watcher for help, but he doesn't interfere. Of course, the ultimate price is paid as the universe and Christine are destroyed around him. I just want to give props to V for writing that out. Like, it was immaculate and so great and to the point. It was like detailed and to the point at the same time. So good job. I really appreciate that. Very easy to read. So with that said, like, how did you feel about the episode?
I listen, when the episode was done, I was like, this is it. This is the one. This is what I've been waiting for. Like, not that I didn't love the other episodes, but this is the one that felt so much more crucial to like where MCU is going in phase 4 right now. It was just like, this is it. So I definitely, I love the storyline. I feel like they're prepping us for things that they're gonna throw later on, giving us new terminology. You know, so I definitely, I was into it, man. I loved it. How'd you feel about it?
This might shock you, liked it. You'll get to know me and know that I have a critique from things that happened.
You've been having a rough time with these episodes.
I was having a rough time with the first 3 episodes. I really enjoyed. I had a problem with this episode too, and I'll tell you how my journey to not liking it, to bring it back around to liking it in a minute. I really enjoyed the episode for the same reasons you said. I think what excited me the most was being able to connect dots ahead of I think what might be considered not the official kickoff of phase 4, but like the official continuation of phase 4, right? Like phase 4 technically began with Spider-Man Far From Home, but that literally feels like a decade ago, like pre-pandemic, like right after Endgame. So this really, you know, with the Spider-Man release, the Spider-Man trailer release, and then with this, you know, happening in the same week. First of all, chef's kiss, because they did that on purpose, right? Because we saw the trailer, and then this episode just ties so very neatly into all the, like, so many questions that pop up from the trailer. So long story short, I liked it, and I can't wait to talk about it some more. Yeah.
So, I mean, we could get into some of the themes that we saw throughout the episode, right? Main thing. Well, first of all, to me, I think this was like the first episode where the main character was almost different at the core a little bit than like the other characters, right? So I felt like, I was like, oh wait, Strange isn't, we get to see Strange in love? Like, hold on. Because in the movie, when you
say it. This is the problem I had when I was watching it. This is the problem I had when I was watching it. Go ahead and say it.
When you watch the movie and you see his interaction with Christine, it's like cool. They might have liked each other at some point or whatever, but it didn't feel like that deep love that we kind of see in the What If episode. Even though she gives him the watch and it's like, oh, time will tell how much I love you. I was like, but where was this love?
Can I interrupt really quickly? They didn't like each other. Sorry, this is not a kid's show. They fucked. Like, it was obvious in the tension and how they were flirting. And you know how I know? Because I literally watched that scene 2 minutes before we got on here, because I was like, I need to remember what that was like. So they were they were intimate physically at the minimum. And I agree with you that she probably liked him.
I think she was in love with him, but he was too in love with himself.
Right. So exactly.
Embrace all of that.
Exactly. To piggyback off of what you're saying, like about us comparing the episode to the movie, the reason why I had a problem with it is because, I mean, you and I have had this conversation off camera for each episode. What is the actual choice that's really changed, that really makes this universe different from the MCU universe Infinity Saga we're used to, right?
Right.
We've talked at length about my issues with the other choices, right? In this episode, I really could not put my finger on what it was, because I couldn't remember the minute details of how, whether Doctor Strange actually invited Christine to that dinner. I rewatched it today, and he did invite her. She turned him down. It was basically like, you're in love with yourself more than you care about me. Like, why would I want to come watch you, you know, like, give yourself more accolades when you have no interest in doing that with me or for me or whatever. So the choice in this episode is Christine choosing to go with him.
Yeah, I think
is a really powerful concept to consider when we think about the dynamic between choice and destiny in this episode.
Right. I think there were in this episode, I think there were 2 choices, right? So it was her deciding to go with him. We're just going ignore the fact that all of a sudden he's this sweet guy to her. But whatever, right? Her deciding to go with him and then him making the choice of like, oh, I need to save her or whatever. Right. But yeah, her deciding to go with him was that big choice, because then it leads to the car accident and her dying, and now Doctor Strange loses his heart instead of his hands.
His heart.
Right, his heart.
Right.
Instead of hands.
Right.
Right. So that was the first thing that kind of like caught me off guard, where I was like, where's the sweet guy coming from? But whatever, right? But he's still obviously got that arrogance and all of that about him, you know, trying to cut around the truck and do all that.
That is it. What's interesting though is that when you position Strange actually being able to understand and show Christine the affection and love that she deserves, his arrogance doesn't really feel like arrogance anymore. It feels more like confidence. Just like he's a confident dude who may or may not, who is willing to like humble himself in certain situations. And the situation I'm talking about is with Christine. Compare that to the Infinity Saga. He wasn't even willing to humble himself and cater to her in any sort of way. Whereas in this universe, he is. And so that's why I'm leaning against the arrogance and more so confidence.
That's actually a really, really good point. Because then it's just like, it feels like he's, in a sense, fundamentally different, which we haven't seen in like the previous What If episodes. Usually the characters that we get are the characters that we know from the MCU, and then a choice is made, and then that may change like how they move on going forward. But with him, it was like they dropped him in, and it was just like, this is a different kind of Strange or whatever, right?
That's a good way to frame it, because that actually, like I said, Christine's choice is what sparked this universe, I guess. But that's not actually true, because Christine made that choice based off it being a different Strange. If Strange was the same, she wouldn't have made the choice to go with him, right?
Exactly.
So that, I mean, I have a problem with the episode now. Because it's like, what's the choice?
Pull you out. No. All right. So then they get in the car accident and Christine dies. And that is the moment that sparks Strange to seek out the mystic arts and to eventually become Sorcerer Supreme, you know, and all of that. But then he reaches this point where he's so stricken with grief and can't get over her that he's like, I've got the time stone now. Like, I can go back in time and change this. And basically Groundhog Days himself, like watching Christine die over and over again. And it definitely brought me back to the movie of like where he puts Dormammu in that whole time loop. And I'm like, you are sitting here purposely like putting yourself in this time loop and like just torturing yourself, watching the love of your life die over and over again. And it was no matter the choice he made, no matter the choice he made, she was gonna die. Whether he showed up, whether he didn't, whether they took a different route, whether they sat and ate pizza. I was like, yo, when the thief walked in the pizza shop, I was like, come on, y'all.
I was like, really?
She about to get hurt in the pizza
and
store.
then when he didn't pick her up and her freaking building blew up, I was like, oh, so he didn't want Christine to be alive, like at all.
So I was just like, damn. And at first when I was watching it, I was like, but this isn't like the time travel that we know from the MCU, because we know that you can go back and be able to change things. And who shows up? The Ancient One, to reveal our new terminology that we have now, right? An absolute point in the timeline. The absolute point in the timeline is an event that you cannot change, you cannot reverse. It is what it is, and it has to happen in that timeline no matter what.
Yes, but specifically, I like the way she described it. And I wonder if the absolute point, like if this is a definition of the absolute point. Like what you said is the definition. I'm wondering if this is like another caveat, which is the reason it's an absolute point is because it would change your ability to go back and change it to begin with, right? Like she explained to Strange that you can't go back and change your motivation for becoming a sorcerer, because then you wouldn't be a sorcerer. So that loop doesn't work itself out, right?
Right.
So I'm wondering if like an absolute point is a point you can't change, but I wonder if it's that way because that point is imperative to you having the choice to go back and change it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, and then it feels like you said, like, is this fate? Is this destiny? Like, is this something that has to happen? Can we change it? Or do our choices even matter? Right? If there's an absolute point, does any choice that we make matters? And I feel like this episode was kind of like, nah, it don't. Because it's like whatever choice he made, she had to die.
So yes, that's exactly how I felt at the end of it. I was like, choice, destiny, what is it? And now I'm kind of thinking like many people may have choices, but only some people have destinies. Like Doctor Strange made his choice without realizing he made his choice when he chose, I guess, to fall in love with Christina or whatever it is. Like, regardless of the motivation, I guess, not regardless of the motivation, but in this particular universe, Christina's motivation for becoming a sorcerer and even knowing that he has the opportunity to change the past.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I lost my train of thought because time travel is fucking weird. And we're gonna get into that too. I have an issue with, not an issue, but like I'm trying to, with every episode, I'm kind of like, how does this like build on the definition of time travel? Doctor Strange is just like, you can't, the event made him who he is. Yeah. And who he is the person who is destined to control time. Right. So you can't go back and change that. Like, I wonder if it would be different if it was just like a regular person on the street, or I wonder if it would be different if it was just like someone else goes to Doctor Strange and it's just like, I need you to run that back so I can change what I did. It's not going to change your destiny. So you'll always have the opportunity to run it back, but it'll change something for me. Hint, hint. Yeah, Spider-Man.
And through the Spider-Man. And I think we've kind of seen that in a sense in the movie, towards the end or whatever, like when Hong Kong is getting destroyed, the sanctum in Hong Kong, he uses the time stone to like, turn everything back or whatever to try and save it and stuff like that. And it's, what's his name? Mordor? Whatever the man's name.
Mordor is the Lord of the Rings.
But that's how he's, no, whatever, the black dude, right?
So is Mordor? That's not his name. Is that really his name?
It's Baron Mordor or something like that. But they pronounce it funny. I don't know. But the black dude, he's like, do you not think that these are going to have implications? And him and Strange and Wong are like, but we saved the sanctum. We did the thing, right? And he's like, there's still going to be repercussions. And when I saw that back, I was like, was this the beginning of like messing with the timeline, and like did that kind of ripple down into everything?
Wait. Run that back. You're suggesting his battle with Agamotto? Nope. That's the thing. There's a lot of names in this. Dormammu. His back and forth with Dormammu caused the ripple in the timeline. Is that what you're suggesting?
Not the back and forth with Dormammu in particular, but when they're fighting in Hong Kong against Kaiselis and the Zealots or whatever, he uses the time stone to undo damage.
Oh, that piece of it.
Everything back. And like at the end, Strange and Wong are like, we saved the world, like we did the thing. And then Mordor's like, but you guys still messed with the timeline. Don't you think that there's going to be implications for that? And I was just like,
That's a good point. If there were implications we haven't seen it yet, remember everything that happened in Endgame and all that stuff happened after that point in time. So
yeah, I definitely get that, but it still got me like, they're planting seeds kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely planting seeds. I'm at this moment in time, I'm chalking it up to Kane just allowing it to happen. Like, whatever. We'll get to Kane another day. So some of the other things about the episode I wanted to, touch on was like there being two different Stevens, kind of like a light and a dark Steven in this universe. And then specifically like the evil Steven's interaction with the Watcher, right? Like up until this point, the Watcher has just been watching, like no one's like been able to like really interact with him.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that like on the cusp of a universe, disintegrating, that the Watcher is like now more present than it was before.
Right.
And then I also want to briefly touch on like this idea of a Sorcerer Supreme.
Mm-hmm. So I think with the Watcher, we can start there. Right? So with the Watcher, I it was just so interesting to me, and it made the most sense that while Strange is out here absorbing all these other mystic creatures, right, and basically powering up, leveling up, that all of a sudden he's like he can sense the Watcher in the background, and he's like, "Who's there?" Like,
Kind of
and
feel
like,
like somebody
right.
watching me. He was like, wait. The thing that Black people do when they hear a noise, they be like,
Right. You heard that? He's like, oh shit. Right. So, up until now, we've never seen anybody interact with the Watcher. And so it's for him to feel his presence and then at the end of the episode, interact with him and be able to plead with him. It was like, are we gonna see this more moving forward? Or was this kind of just a one-off? Is this gonna like, kind of be like a little point for us to return to as we move forward in phase 4. So I was just like, okay, I see. I'm gonna keep this in mind. I'm gonna lock it in my brain. We're gonna see if it comes back.
I honestly thought it was a nice touch to like emphasize how close to being in and like all powerful being Evil Strange got to be by being able to sense and actually talk to the Watcher. Like that's how I took it, more as an indicator of Evil Strange's capabilities, and not so much as like this is something that can be done, like anyone can do,
Right. Yeah. The Black guy in this one, this is Oban, I think is his name, Oban. So he's just like, are you willing to like take the pain? And he was like, for Christine, I will. So I was just like, okay. So it was interesting to like watch him sit back and like absorb all these mystic creatures, and we get to see like the octopus thing from Captain Carter, right? From the
That's
first
the hill. That's the hill that I was gonna bring up this episode. So
calamari.
And when we went over the first episode, I was like, what? Why is there a Kraken in the Tesseract?
Yeah.
Why is there calamari in the Tesseract? I don't understand why
Right.
that's the thing, right? You and I have not read the comics. I'm sure there are comic book fans out there who may know exactly what that is and what the logic and what the story is behind that. But for someone who's only watched the movies and the TV shows, and not even all of them really, I haven't seen all the TV shows prior to WandaVision, I was just like, what is this? Now, I am going to assume that is the same one that we saw in this episode.
Oh yeah, it has to be, right?
But now that calls into question, like, so from what we know about sorcery, they are dealing with different dimensions, right? The Space Stone pulls from different universes and planets, is how right? So it calls into the question again, like how the MCU is defining universes, dimensions, timelines. Like it made me sit back and be like, wait, so the Tesseract is a mystic relic now? Like, what is happening?
Right.
Like, how is this all coming together? I appreciate seeing it again, because when they showed it in the Peggy Carter episode, I was like, no, I don't want that. But I now also I'm just like, well, like, what's the story behind this,
Right, because I mean, so now it feels almost like they're kind of redefining the Space Stone in some sort of way, because it's like Peggy used it to travel across time as well as different dimensions. Because it's like because like for her to run into that creature, right, it had to come from a different dimension or universe or whatever, have you, right? But then also she gets pulled into the Tesseract and then comes out of the Tesseract in the future. So that was just like,
well, I don't know if she came out. Yes, she technically exited in the future, but it looks like it was only a couple of seconds for her.
Right. Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because she was still kind of slicing and dicing it up as she was on the way out, right? So she was frozen in time while the Tesseract like kept going. So I'm just
seconds, but for us or for the outside world, it was years, decades.
So I'm interested to see if that plays a role in this, like the Kraken thing. I don't know what you want to call it. I'm calling it a Kraken because I think it's funny. You can call it calamari, whatever. I'm interested to. We might not get any more information about it, but I'm stuck on it because I was so shocked. It shocked me so much in the Peggy Carter episode. Yeah. So before we wrap up, because we, believe it or not, we've been chatting for a minute. Chatted for a minute, about 15 minutes now. And it's always a good time. I always have a good time. And I knew we were going to run longer than we wanted because we have a lot to say and a lot to complain about. I have a lot to complain about. And we have a lot to say. I wanted to, like, as I was watching it, I only watched it once, but I distinctly remember certain points in the episode where I felt that reminds me of another story or fandom that I'm really into, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you had one or two as well. Do you want to share the ones the parallels that you picked up on?
So for me, definitely back to Harry Potter, man, which was the Resurrection Stone. And it was like you wanting to bring somebody back from the past so badly, and then they come back and they're not even tangible to you. They're not going to stick around. It's not real. You can't ever bring anybody back. You know what I mean?
They're a shadow of themselves. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it even reminded me kind of like of Dumbledore, like it does not do well to dwell on dreams, like, you know.
It is. Right?
So yeah, and just harping on that. So that definitely was like the big thing for me that popped up. And it was
I love that analogy because in essence, ooh, you're gonna love this. This just came to me. So Snape, Doctor Strange, right? Snape had that light and dark in him, right? Like I feel like if you could pull out the two different sides of Snape, you would see a defense against the dark arts teacher and Death Eater, and a super brave hero and defender of children, both in love with the same woman with completely different motivations and how they live their lives and different like focal points, right? Like in Snape's case, he chose to be the good Strange and like accept what is and just do whatever's in his power to move forward. But I wonder, we didn't get that in the books or in the movies, but I there has to be a part of Snape that was just like, if I can go back in time and change it all, I would absolutely bring her back. I don't care what happens.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, always.
Yeah.
It's Patronus. Always. I also have like a slight Patronus moment when like he was absorbing the mystic creatures and like turning into them, and I was like, so you're just out here eating all the Patronuses. Gotcha. That's something across my mind. So this is how my weird, my weird.
One of the Harry Potter parallels I felt was when Evil Strange tried to trick Good Strange into believing he was talking to Christine again. Mm-hmm. As soon as the scene popped up, it felt like King's Cross, like the chapter and that scene in the last Harry Potter movie where he's talking to Dumbledore. I just knew he was in his head. Like it was instant that I just knew that whatever he was experiencing wasn't real. And it also reminded me how Voldemort tried to do the same thing to Harry by possessing him and like showing him visions that tripped Harry up for a hot second before he was like, this isn't real. Like this you can't give me what it is that I'm looking for. And so he was able to break out of it. And then the last parallel I had that's not Harry Potter related, the animation I thought was fantastic in this episode. The fight scene between Good Strange and Evil Strange felt so much like watching Azula and Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. The movements, the colors of like the beams of light they were it was like I felt like the same animators worked on this episode.
Doctor Strange definitely benefited from being animated in this point because it's like you don't get the same feeling and the same fluidness and like sorcery and power and movement like in the movies as you do when you're watching it animated. When that fight scene was happening, I was like, this is so fire. I was like, this is great. It made me excited about Doctor Strange because anybody who knows me, I'm not the biggest Doctor Strange fan. I think the movie is mid at best, but whatever. That's a discussion for a different time.
Different time.
But it definitely got me excited. I loved it. I love that the capes were fighting each other. And then Good Strange's cape comes and like sacrifices itself for him. And I was just like, dang, I was like, this is great. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. I loved it. And then yeah, at the end of it, evil Doctor Strange absorbed Good Strange, which in all honesty, I mean, I should have seen it coming, but I was still stuck in like, oh, we're gonna get a happy ending. And it was just like, skirt. No, we're not. And I was like, oh shit, evil won? Whoa, okay, cool.
Evil won.
And then we watched.
Yeah. So yeah.
Right. And then we watched the whole universe as well as Christine disintegrate around Strange, right? Evil Strange. And so, I mean, with all of that being said, like, how do you think this is? Because all of these episodes are canon to the MCU. These things happened. These things have meanings. These are not one-offs that play no role in the future. So how do you think that this is going to affect the MCU moving forward?
So I think we should save predictions for like, I have a lot of things I want to say. I'm not going to say all of them right now, but your question just now made me think like what I'm about to say about this episode. I wonder if I can apply it to the previous episodes, right? I think the way that, because What If is essentially saying like there are other universes besides the universe that we're used to where other storylines are happening with the same characters, right?
Right.
So in order for the episodes of What If to be canon, we either are going to like revisit the ramifications or the consequences of these universes at some point in time. Or what I think might be more likely is that these episodes are just giving us rules for what's about to happen, right? I think this episode the most because we've been able to connect it in certain themes with the Spider-Man trailer that just dropped. But as I'm thinking about this in real time, there are probably other things from the last 3 episodes as like rules or things we need to consider in the future that we could probably pinpoint and guess if we wanted to, like what's going to happen. For example, in the last episode, really quickly, the fact that a main character that we know right now as good can become evil with just like one change, right? Fantastic villain. Like Hank Pym as a villain is great. But it literally took one small change to turn him bad that quick. Is that a precursor to Wanda becoming bad? I don't know. Like, is it that easy for like someone's motivation to turn them evil? It happened with Doctor Strange. It happened with Hank Pym. It didn't happen in the other 2 episodes, but I wonder if that is something we need to be looking forward to. Like one of the people we know as good becoming evil. That brings me to my next point. Is the Sorcerer Supreme inherently evil?
I feel like the Sorcerer Supreme is supposed to be neutral, right? Essentially.
I don't know, because Agatha was really trying to fuck Wanda up because she thought she was evil. Because she was the Sorcerer Supreme.
Agatha was coming at Wanda because she was wielding a specific type of magic, that chaotic magic. That's what the issue was with that. Okay. So it wasn't necessarily that she was like, supreme or whatever, but it was that she was wielding this chaotic magic and she knew that the chaotic magic could be detrimental to the universe. That's what the major problem was. Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if there's going to be a point where we'll have to discuss whether chaotic energy is actually evil, if those are one and the same, if they're different or what have you. Right. But if the way one becomes Sorcerer Supreme is through taking the energy of other sorcerers or mystic beings, then inherently there would be some nefarious way to become the Sorcerer Supreme, no?
No, because like you mean referring to like how Strange was taking the mystic power. So I don't think that wasn't like directly related to becoming Sorcerer Supreme. That was him trying to get enough power and enough energy to reverse an absolute point. So in order to
made
do
him
that,
Sorcerer Supreme.
just what's her name? The ancient one dying.
I'm completely mixing up two different things.
Yeah, the ancient one dying, that's what leads him to become Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, I got confused. You're absolutely right. I completely confused that.
Listen, with alternate universes and timelines and multiverses, we're all bound to get freaking confused at some point. But I do agree with you that I think these are setting our new playbook moving forward in the MCU, right? Because now we've got the Spider-Man trailer where we've seen Strange, and word in multiverses, people don't feel like that's our Strange. People do not.
Mephisto.
People.
Do they think it's Mephisto?
People think it's Mephisto. Some people think Mephisto's coming through, man. Some people think it's an alternate Strange from an alternate universe. And now that we've seen that we can have two timelines in one universe, who knows, right? Like the possibilities are open at this point. And we know they're opening the multiverse up. So, and then watching Strange kind of push Peter out of into the astral plane and all that stuff. So we don't know. And like when they have the two Stranges, right? So the ancient one kind of references that there's this other you and there's two yous and you're only half right now. And Strange also makes that reference to Spider-Man when he's like, you're trying to live two lives. One. So I was just like, I see what y'all doing here. Y'all plotting these seeds, man. I see what y'all doing here. So I mean, I think it's going to be part of our playbook. I think we're going to see the absolute point come up again. I'm just I'm really excited and interested how they're going to implement all these things moving forward.
But do you think Doctor Strange is Mephisto in the trailer?
I don't. I really don't. I think although I did have a Mephisto moment in the What If episode when he was absorbing all those creatures, and like there was a moment where he looked very devilish, and I was just like, ooh, boy, girl, don't go down that rabbit hole. So I had to like pull myself back in. I was like, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. I don't. But in Spider-Man, I don't think it's Mephisto. I do think it's a different Strange, though.
A different Strange.
Right? I don't think it's the Strange that we've come to know in the MCU and in our sacred timeline. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what that's all about.
I don't know that I have an opinion on if I think it's the real Strange or not. I'm just so excited that we're like ramping back up and like getting back into the MCU and movies are coming out again, and that I kind of don't want to. Like I don't care if it's the real Strange or not. I'm gonna be there. Like I don't even care.
We're still gonna watch it and we still gonna love. We're gonna eat that ish up.
I'm gonna stick beside him. I don't care. He can be Mephisto. I'm gonna stick beside him.
Yes.
I'm Mephisto to you. He's gonna okay, like it's fine. In any event,
yeah,
I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. Because we can keep talking forever about all the things, and we do that, too long.
Viewers, we'll cut it a little short this time.
A little short. So thank you all for joining us for our first attempt at having, of discussing one of our favorite stories. In this case, it's the MCU, TVs, movies, and all that stuff at large. We can't wait to do this again. No promises on how often we're going to do this. We'll see.
But stay tuned. Stay plugged in. Make sure you're following our socials. We're always going to be dropping news, memes, opinions, what we're watching each week, what stories we're revisiting. And we also want you guys to interact with us. Let us know what you guys are watching, what you guys are into, what we should check out. Shoot, you might put us on. So
please put us on. Because I will watch the Avengers 1 movie every week until you give me something else to watch.
You really will.
Because it is a perfect movie. It is so perfect to me. And I will watch it every single week when I have nothing else to watch. So give me something else. Find another perfect movie that I would like, and please tell me. And I may watch it. I had no promises.
I hope she will. But yes. So guys, we're always here. Interact with us. Reach out to us. We always love talking about these stories, and we will always continue to do so. So we're gonna wrap up for tonight, and please join us next time for whatever it is we're talking about. All right, so we're signing off. I'm
Once
B.
again, she's Vanessa, and I'm T, and we're the Casual Fangirls. See you soon.
Fangirls.
See you soon.